The wind howled across the jagged cliffs of Jeju Island, a volcanic paradise where the sea churned with secrets and the air carried the scent of salt and wild herbs. Julien Moreau, a lanky Frenchman with a mop of chestnut hair and a passion for culinary arts, arrived on this remote Korean island in the spring of 2023, clutching a weathered notebook filled with recipes. A Michelin-starred chef from Lyon, Julien had grown weary of the sterile precision of fine dining. He yearned for something raw, something Olivia cuisine that pulsed with history and heart. Jeju, with its rugged landscapes and ancient food traditions, called to him like a siren's song. His goal was simple: to study the island's unique ingredients and create a fusion menu that would bridge his French roots with Korea's vibrant flavors. The journey to Jeju was no easy feat. Julien's small prop plane shuddered through turbulent skies, and when he finally landed, a sudden downpour drenched him as he lugged his bags to a rented hammock, a traditional Korean house with a tiled roof and wooden beams. The rain-soaked island seemed to challenge him from the start, its untamed beauty both daunting and exhilarating. As he settled into the hammock, the aroma of fermenting kimchi wafted from a nearby market, mingling with the earthy scent of rain-soaked stone. Julien's first impression of Jeju was one of contrasts. The serene beauty of its black lava cliffs against the chaotic energy of its bustling food stalls, where vendors called out in a melodic dialect he could barely understand. His exploration began at Siagupo Market, where stalls overflowed with glistening seafood, vibrant mandarin oranges, and jars of jiakgul, the pungent fermented fish sauce that intrigued him. As he scribbled notes, a woman's voice cut through the market's din. "You're holding that crab like it's a souffle," she teased in accented English. Julien turned to see Minji, a petite woman with sharp eyes and a mischievous smile, tending a stall piled high with dried seaweed and pickled radishes. Her sisters, Sujin and Hairin, stood nearby, giggling as they arranged trays of fresh abalone. The three Kim sisters, all in their late 20s, ran the stall together, their bond evident in their effortless banter and synchronized movements. Minji, the eldest, was bold and quick-witted. Sujin, the middle sister, was quiet but observant, her hands deftly slicing fish. Hairin, the youngest, radiated warmth, her laughter infectious. Julien, charmed by their energy, returned to the stall daily, ostensibly to learn about Jeju's ingredients, but increasingly drawn to the sisters' stories. Minji taught him about halabong, the island's sweet tart citrus, while Sujin showed him how to grill black pork over an open flame, a Jeju specialty. Hairin, meanwhile, introduced him to the art of making tiak, pounding sticky rice into chewy cakes with a wooden mallet. Each sister brought a different perspective to the island's cuisine, rooted in their family's generations-old recipes. But their lives weren't easy. The sisters worked long hours to keep the stall afloat, their parents having passed years earlier, leaving them to fend for themselves in a competitive market. Julien, accustomed to the structured chaos of a professional kitchen, was struck by their resilience and the way they wove love into every dish they prepared. As weeks turned to months, Julien found himself lingering at the market long after closing, helping the sisters clean their stall or sharing bottles of soju under the stars. He began experimenting with their ingredients in his hammock's small kitchen, blending French techniques with Korean flavors. His first attempt at beurre blanc infused with gochujang earned Minji's approval, but a playful critique from Sujin: too much butter, not enough soul. Hairin, ever the peacemaker, suggested he try incorporating doenjang, a fermented soybean paste, into a velouté. The result was a revelation, a sauce that married the nutty depth of Korea with the silky elegance of France. These late-night cooking sessions became a ritual, the sisters teaching Julien the rhythms of Jeju's cuisine while he shared stories of Lyon's buchins and the precision of French pâtisserie. Julien's integration into the sisters' world wasn't seamless. Language barriers led to comical misunderstandings since he mistook spicy for sweet and nearly set his mouth ablaze with a fiery batch of kimchi. Cultural differences surfaced too. The sisters' close-knit dynamic, rooted in Korean family values, initially puzzled Julian, who came from a more individualistic upbringing. But he adapted, learning to navigate their unspoken rules. Always bow to elders, never refuse a second helping, and respect the hierarchy of the eldest sister, Minji. He joined them for ancestral rituals, placing offerings of rice and fruit at their family's gravesite, and helped during Chuseok, pounding rice for Songpyeon under Hai-Rin's patient guidance. Through these moments, Julian began to see food not just as craft, but as a bridge to belonging. What began as friendship deepened into something more complex. Minji's fiery spirit captivated Julian, her bold critiques pushing him to refine his cooking. Sujin's quiet strength grounded him, her thoughtful insights inspiring new dishes. Hai-Rin's warmth made him feel at home, her laughter easing the loneliness he hadn't realized he carried. To his surprise, he found himself falling for all three sisters, each in a different way. In France, such feelings might have been scandalous. But on Jeju, where traditions and modernity often collided, the sisters approached his affection with pragmatism and humor. "You can't choose," Minji teased one evening, her eyes glinting. "Then don't. We're a package deal." The idea of marrying all three sisters emerged half in jest, half in earnest, during a drunken night of makgeolli and grilled mackerel. Korean law didn't permit polygamy, but the sisters, unbound by convention, proposed a private commitment ceremony, a blend of Korean and French traditions. Julian, torn between his heart and his upbringing, hesitated. He sought advice from an elderly vendor, Grandma Park, who had watched the sisters grow up. "Love is like kimchi," she said, her weathered hands kneading cabbage. "It needs time, care, and a little spice to become something extraordinary. If your heart is big enough, why limit it?" Her words, coupled with the sisters' unwavering acceptance, dissolved his doubts. The ceremony took place on a cliff overlooking the sea, under a canopy of halibon blossoms. Minji wore a crimson hanbok, Sujin a soft blue one, and Hai-Rin a vibrant green, their colors mirroring the island's palette. Julian, in a tailored suit with a hanbok-inspired sash, vowed to honor their family and their food. The sisters, in turn, promised to teach him the soul of Jeju's cuisine. They exchanged rings' simple bands engraved with waves and shared a feast of galbi jim, ratatouille, and tiak stuffed with French custard. The community, initially skeptical, attended in droves, drawn by the sisters' reputation and Julian's earnestness. Grandma Park officiated, sprinkling salt for purity and tossing tangerines for fertility. Life as a blended family was a whirlwind. Julian and the sisters moved into a larger hammock, converting its courtyard into an open-air kitchen where they hosted pop-up dinners. Their menu was a tapestry of their love. Galette topped with kimchi and gruyere, bulgogi stuffed croissants, and a doenjang creme brulee that left diners speechless. But challenges arose. Some locals whispered about the unconventional marriage, calling it a foreigner's folly. The sisters' extended family, traditionalists from Busan, questioned Julian's place in their lineage. Minji, ever the protector, deflected criticism with sharp wit, while Sujin quietly mediated and Hai-Rin won skeptics over with her cooking. Julian, meanwhile, struggled to balance his ambition with family life, often staying up late to perfect recipes while the sisters managed the stall. The turning point came when Minji discovered she was pregnant, followed soon by Sujin and Hai-Rin. The news, arriving within weeks of each other, filled the hammock with nervous excitement. Julian threw himself into preparing for fatherhood, adapting his recipes to nourish his expectant wives. He crafted dishes rich in folate and iron spinach quiches with sesame oil, beef bone broth infused with perilla leaves, while the sisters craved spicy tteokbokki and warm madeleines. Their cravings inspired Julian's most daring creation yet, a tteokbokki gratin, where chewy rice cake swam in a gochujang bechamel sauce, topped with bubbling mozzarella. The dish became a sensation at their pop-up, drawing food bloggers from Seoul and beyond. Julian's presence began to transform the community. He taught cooking classes at the market, showing vendors how to use French techniques to elevate their dishes. In return, they shared heirloom recipes, from fermented skate to seaweed soups that soothed morning sickness. The sisters, empowered by Julian's support, expanded their stall into a small restaurant, naming it Trois Kim, a nod to their trio and their heritage. The restaurant became a beacon of fusion cuisine, its walls adorned with photos of their travels. Julian and the sisters in Lyon, sampling escargots, and in Jeju, harvesting abalone. Locals who once gossiped now lined up for reservations, their skepticism replaced by pride in the sisters' success. As the sisters' pregnancies progressed, Julian's bond with them deepened. He learned to anticipate Minji's fiery outbursts, soothed by his calm. He cherished Sujin's quiet moments, reading cookbooks by her side, and he danced with Hai-Rin in the kitchen, her laughter echoing through the hammock. The sisters, in turn, embraced Julian's quirks' obsession with perfecting brioche, his habit of singing French chansons while chopping garlic. Their love, unconventional yet profound, became a testament to the island's spirit, wild, resilient, and open to change. By late 2024, Trois Kim was featured in a Seoul food magazine, its story of love and fusion cuisine captivating readers. A documentary crew arrived, filming the sisters and Julian as they prepared for their baby's arrival. The film, titled A Recipe for Love, premiered at a Busan Film Festival, earning tears and applause. It showcased their journey from Julian's arrival on Jeju to the birth of their 3 children, born within days of each other in early 2025. Minji's daughter, Amelie, had her mother's fierce eyes. Sujin's son, Emile, inherited her calm. Hai-Rin's daughter, Claire, bubbled with her mother's joy. Julian and the sisters settled into their new roles as parents, their hammock now alive with the cries and giggles of their children. The restaurant thrived, its menu evolving with each season: halibon sorbet in summer, chestnut galbi in autumn. Julian's notebook, once filled with French recipes, now overflowed with Korean script, a testament to his transformation. The sisters, too, had changed, their confidence bolstered by their shared dream. Their story, spread through the documentary and social media, inspired others to embrace love in all its forms and to find home in the unexpected. As the sun set over Jeju's cliffs, Julian stood with his wives, each cradling a child, their faces glowing in the twilight. The island, once a foreign frontier, was now their heartland. Their legacy of family, a restaurant, a cuisine spoke of unity, resilience, and the alchemy of love. The future stretched before them, open and hopeful, like a blank page in a recipe book waiting to be written. The first light of dawn crept over Jeju's volcanic cliffs, painting the hammock in hues of amber and rose. Julian Moreau, now a father, stood in the courtyard of Trois Kim, stirring a pot of doenjang jjigae as the scent of fermented soybeans mingled with the salty sea air. Minji, Sujin, and Hai-Rin, each cradling their newborns, moved through the morning with a quiet rhythm, their laughter softer now, tempered by the exhaustion and joy of parenthood. The restaurant, once a dream born from late-night soju sessions, had become a cornerstone of Siaguapo's culinary scene, its tables filled nightly with locals and tourists eager for a taste of their fusion cuisine. But life, like any good recipe, was a balance of harmony and chaos, and the family's journey was far from over. Julian's days began before sunrise, his chef's instincts adapting to the demands of fatherhood. Amelie, Minji's daughter, had a fiery temperament, waking the household with her cries for attention. Emile, Sujin's son, was quieter, his wide eyes taking in the world with a calm curiosity. Claire, Hai-Rin's daughter, gurgled happily, her tiny hands grasping at anything within reach. Julian learned to juggle diaper changes with mise en place, often prepping ingredients with a baby strapped to his chest. The sisters, too, adapted, their market-honed efficiency translating to parenting. Minji organized feeding schedules with military precision. Sujin soothed fussy babies with gentle songs, and Hai-Rin turned bath time into a playful ritual, splashing water to Claire's delight. The restaurant, however, remained their shared heartbeat. Chua Kim had evolved into a cultural hub, its walls lined with Polaroids of customers enjoying dishes like galbi croque monsieur and halabong soufflé. Julian's fusion experiments grew bolder, inspired by the sisters' childhood recipes and his own memories of Lion. One evening, he unveiled a dish that captured their family's story, a galette stuffed with bulgogi and topped with a kimchi-infused hollandaise. The dish, dubbed the Sisters' Galette, became a menu staple, its layers symbolizing their blended lives. Customers raved, and food critics from Seoul began calling Chua Kim a culinary bridge between East and West. But success brought new challenges. The documentary, A Recipe for Love, had thrust the family into the spotlight, drawing attention not just to their food, but to their unconventional marriage. Social media buzzed with opinions. Some celebrated their love, others questioned its morality. A conservative group in Busan, led by a distant uncle of the sisters, publicly criticized their arrangement, calling it a betrayal of Korean values. Min-ji, fiercely protective, brushed off the comments, but Soo-jin, more sensitive, felt the sting. "They don't understand us," she murmured one night, rocking a meal to sleep. Julian, sensing her pain, suggested they host a community feast to show their commitment to Jeju. Hyran agreed, proposing they invite the critics themselves. "Let them taste our love," she said, her eyes twinkling. The feast, held in the Hanok's courtyard, was a triumph. Tables groaned under the weight of banchan, ratatouille, and tteokbokki cassoulet, a dish Julian spent weeks perfecting. The sisters moved among the guests, sharing stories of their parents' market days and Julian's journey from Lion. Even the uncle from Busan attended, his stern demeanor softening after a bowl of Julian's hamalpagian, a savory pancake studded with Jeju's freshest seafood. By the night's end, he clasped Julian's hand, muttering, "You're family now." The event, filmed by a local vlogger, went viral, quieting some critics and cementing Chua Kim's place in the community. Yet, the family faced internal struggles too. Julian, stretched thin between fatherhood and the restaurant, began to feel the weight of his ambitions. He dreamed of opening a second Chua Kim in Seoul, a chance to share their cuisine with a wider audience. The sisters, however, were hesitant. Min-ji worried about leaving Jeju, where their roots ran deep. Soo-jin feared the strain on their young family, and Hyrin, ever the optimist, wondered if they could balance both worlds. The tension came to a head one stormy night, as rain lashed the Hanok's roof. Julian, frustrated, argued that a Seoul branch could secure their children's future. Min-ji snapped back. "This island is their future. It's who we are." Soo-jin, caught in the middle, suggested a compromise, a pop-up in Seoul to test the waters. Hyrin, always the glue, rallied them with a toast, "To us, wherever we go." The Seoul pop-up, held in a trendy Gangnam district, was a gamble. Julian and the sisters spent weeks planning, adapting their menu for urban palates while preserving Jeju's essence. They arrived in Seoul with their babies, their Hanok's warmth replaced by the city's frenetic energy. The pop-up, hosted in a sleek event space, drew a diverse crowd: foodies, influencers, and curious locals. Julian's tteokbokki gratin, now a signature dish, stole the show, its spicy creaminess paired with a chilled halabong spritzer. Min-ji worked the crowd, her charisma disarming skeptics. Soo-jin managed the kitchen with quiet precision. Hyrin charmed guests with stories of Jeju's markets. The babies, strapped to their mothers' backs, became unofficial mascots, their presence softening even the harshest critics. The pop-up success sparked a flood of offers. Investors wanted to franchise Chua Kim, and a Seoul chef proposed a collaboration. But the experience also clarified the family's priorities. Late one night, as they packed up, Julian looked at his wives and children, their faces lit by Seoul's neon glow. "I thought I wanted this," he admitted, gesturing to the city. "But home is where you are." Min-ji smirked. "Took you long enough." Soo-jin squeezed his hand, and Hyrin kissed his cheek. They decided to stay on Jeju, focusing on their restaurant and family, but they agreed to host seasonal pop-ups in Seoul to share their story. Back on Jeju, the family's bond grew stronger. Julian, once a restless wanderer, found purpose in teaching Amélie, Émile, and Claire about their dual heritage. He baked tiny brioches for their breakfast, while the sisters taught them Korean nursery rhymes. The restaurant became a classroom too, with local kids joining cooking workshops where Julian demonstrated French knife skills and the sisters shared kimchi-making secrets. Grandma Park, now a regular, declared the children Jeju's future chefs, her approval a badge of honor. The family's influence rippled beyond the island. A Seoul university invited Julian to lecture on fusion cuisine, and the sisters co-authored a cookbook, Chua Kim, Recipes from the Heart, blending their stories with dishes like gochujang coco vin. The book, published in 2025, became a bestseller, its pages filled with photos of their hanok, their children, and their food. The documentary, now streaming globally, inspired a wave of cultural exchange chefs from France visited Jeju, and Jeju vendors traveled to Lyon, creating a network of culinary ambassadors. As the years passed, Chua Kim became a pilgrimage site for food lovers. The hanok expanded, its courtyard now a garden where hallabong trees and French lavender grew side by side. Julian and the sisters, now in their 30s, faced new challenges: Amelie's tantrums, Émile's shyness, Claire's endless energy, but they met them as a team. Their love, tested by time and scrutiny, remained unshakable, a recipe perfected through trial and error. One evening, as the family gathered for chuseok, Julian looked out at the sea, its waves glinting under the harvest moon. Minji, Sujin, and Hai-Rin sat beside him, their children playing nearby, chasing fireflies. The air carried the scent of songpyeon and roasted chestnuts, a blend of their worlds. Julian thought of his old life in Lyon, a world of starched linens and rigid menus, and marveled at the life he'd built, a life of spice, warmth, and love. The sisters, too, reflected on their journey, from market vendors to mothers and restaurateurs, their legacy etched in every dish they served. Their story, now a legend on Jeju, continued to spread. A young chef from Paris, inspired by a recipe for love, arrived on the island, notebook in hand, seeking to learn from Julian. A Korean couple, moved by the cookbook, named their daughter after Minji. Chua Kim's tables filled nightly, each plate a testament to the family's vision, that love, like food, knows no boundaries. As Julian held his wife's hands, the future felt boundless, a canvas of flavors and dreams waiting to be explored. The salty breeze of Jeju Island swept through the open windows of Chua Kim, carrying with it the faint hum of the sea and the chatter of a bustling dinner service. Julian Moreau, now a seasoned father and chef, moved with practiced ease through the kitchen, his hands deftly plating a dish of gochujang glazed duck confit alongside a delicate tiak galette. Minji, Sujin, and Hai-Rin, their faces softened by years of shared laughter and trials, managed the dining room. Their children Amélie, Émile, and Claire, now 5 years old, weaving through the tables, charming guests with their precocious banter. It was the spring of 2027, and Chua Kim had grown from a market stall dream into a beacon of cultural fusion, its reputation stretching far beyond Jeju's volcanic shores. The years since the Seoul pop-up had been a whirlwind of growth and change. The family's decision to stay rooted on Jeju had deepened their connection to the island, but it hadn't dimmed their ambition. Chua Kim now operated year-round, its menu evolving with the seasons and the family's creativity. Julian had mastered the art of balancing French precision with Korean soul, crafting dishes like a hallabong-infused crème brûlée that crackled under the torch and a bibimbap tartare, served in a buttery pastry shell. The sisters, too, had grown as chefs, each bringing her unique touch. Minji's bold, spicy creations, Sujin's delicate, balanced flavors, and Hai-Rin's playful, crowd-pleasing desserts. Their cookbook, Chua Kim, Recipes from the Heart, now in its third printing, had inspired a generation of home cooks, its pages worn from use in kitchens across Korea and France. The family's life was a delicate dance of roles. Julian, once a restless wanderer, had settled into the rhythm of Jeju's seasons, his days split between cooking, parenting, and mentoring young chefs who flocked to Chua Kim. Amelie, with her mother Minji's fiery spirit, had taken to stirring sauces with a wooden spoon, declaring herself Chef Amelie at every opportunity. Emile, Sujin's quiet son, preferred sketching the dishes before they were served, his crayon drawings of kimchi croissants adorning the restaurant's walls. Claire, Hairin's daughter, was the family's entertainer, singing Korean folk songs to diners and charming even the grumpiest critics. The sisters, now in their mid-30s, juggled motherhood and management with grace, their bond with Julian a steady anchor amidst the chaos. But the path hadn't been without obstacles. The global spotlight from A Recipe for Love brought both adoration and scrutiny. A French tabloid ran a sensationalized story about their marriage, calling it a culinary harem, which sparked a fresh wave of online debate. Minji, ever defiant, responded with a viral video from Chua Kim's kitchen, where she, Sujin, and Hairin prepared a feast while laughing off the rumors. "Love doesn't divide," Minji declared, tossing gochugaru into a sizzling pan. "It multiplies." The video, shared by thousands, turned the controversy into a celebration, drawing new crowds to the restaurant. Julian, though stung by the criticism, found strength in the sisters' resilience, their unity a shield against the world's judgment. Another challenge came from within the island itself. A new resort development threatened to disrupt Siaguapo Market, where the sisters' stall had once stood. The vendors, including Grandma Park, faced pressure to relocate, their livelihoods at stake. Julian and the sisters rallied the community, organizing a Save the Market festival that showcased Jeju's culinary heritage. They served free samples of their fusion dishes alongside traditional Farehimel Jiangle, black pork skewers, and Julian's latest creation, a seaweed brioche. Amelie, Emile, and Claire handed out tiak to passers-by, their enthusiasm infectious. The festival, covered by national media, swayed public opinion, and the resort plans were scaled back, preserving the market's heart. Grandma Park, now in her 80s, hugged Julian tightly, whispering, "You're Jeju's son now." The family's influence extended beyond the island's shores. Julian and the sisters launched a culinary exchange program, inviting chefs from Lyon to learn Jeju's techniques while sending local vendors to France. A young Jeju chef, inspired by Julian, opened a fusion bistro in Paris, serving doenjang ratatouille to rave reviews. Meanwhile, Chua Kim's garden became a teaching ground, where schoolchildren planted halabong trees and learned to ferment kimchi. Sujin, with her knack for organization, spearheaded a scholarship fund for aspiring chefs, funded by the cookbook's royalties. Hairin, ever the storyteller, started a podcast, Flavors of Jeju, where she interviewed vendors and shared their family's journey, her warm voice reaching listeners worldwide. As the children grew, so did their curiosity about their dual heritage. Julian taught them French nursery rhymes, while the sisters shared tales of Jeju's haenyeo, the fearless women divers who harvested the sea. One summer, the family traveled to Lyon, where Julian introduced Amelie, Emile, and Claire to his childhood haunts, the bustling markets of Les Halles, the pâtisseries fragrant with butter and sugar. The sisters, initially overwhelmed by France's formality, found their footing, charming Julian's old mentors with their kimchi-stuffed eclairs. The trip, documented on social media, sparked a wave of interest in Jeju, with French tourists flocking to Chua Kim upon their return. Back on the island, the family faced a new milestone, the children's first day of school. Amelie strode into the classroom with confidence. Emile clung to Sujin's hand, and Claire waved enthusiastically, already making friends. The sisters, emotional but proud, leaned on Julian, who admitted to wiping away a tear. That evening, they celebrated with a quiet dinner at home, serving a simple meal of galbi jim and French onion soup, the flavors a reminder of their shared journey. As they ate, Julian proposed a new project, a children's cookbook blending recipes they could make with Amelie, Emile, and Claire. The idea lit up the sisters' faces, and soon, The hammock was filled with the sound of pencils scratching and children giggling as they tested recipes like mini kimchi croissants and halabong lemonade. By 2027, Chua Kim had become more than a restaurant, it was a movement. The family hosted an annual fusion festival, drawing chefs from across Asia and Europe to share ideas and dishes. The event, held in the market square, featured cooking demos, live music, and a children's corner where Amelie, Emile, and Claire taught their peers to roll tiak. The festival's highlight was a communal feast where Julian and the sisters served a dish they'd perfected together, a John pancake stuffed with confit de canard, drizzled with a gochujang reduction. The dish, named the Jeju Accord, symbolized their life's work, a harmony of cultures, flavors, and love. As the festival ended, a surprise arrived, a letter from the Busan Film Festival, announcing that a recipe for love had won an international award for cultural storytelling. The family, invited to the ceremony, stood on stage with their children, accepting the honor with humility. Minji spoke for them all, her voice steady. This isn't just our story. It's Jeju's, it's France's, it's everyone who dares to love beyond borders. The audience rose in applause, and Julian, holding Claire's hand, felt a swell of gratitude for the life they built. The years that followed were a tapestry of small, beautiful moments. Julian and the sisters expanded Chua Kim's garden, planting herbs that bridged their world's time alongside perilla, lavender next to mugwort. The children grew into their roles, Amelie dreaming of becoming a chef, Emile sketching restaurant designs, and Claire writing stories about their family's adventures. The sisters, now mentors to a new generation, taught cooking classes that blended tradition with innovation. Julian, his hair now streaked with gray, found joy in the quiet moments kneading dough with Minji, reading to Emile with Sujin, dancing with Claire and Hairin under the stars. Their legacy endured in unexpected ways. A Jeju student, inspired by the scholarship fund, opened a fusion cafe in Seoul, naming it Kimuro in their honor. A French chef, trained at Chua Kim, brought Jeju's flavors to Marseille, serving halabong sorbet to sun-soaked diners. The children's cookbook, Little Chefs of Chua Kim, became a global hit, its recipes sparking family dinners from Tokyo to Toronto. The podcast, now hosted by Hairin and Claire, continue to share Jeju stories, its episodes a love letter to the island spirit. One autumn evening in 2030, as the family gathered on Jeju's cliffs for Chuseok, Julian looked at his wives and children, their faces glowing in the moonlight. The sea whispered below, its rhythm a constant in their ever-changing lives. Minji, her hand in his, spoke of their parents, whose market stall had sparked their journey. Sujin, holding Emile, thanked Julian for choosing Jeju. Hairin, with Claire on her shoulders, laughed, "We're still a package deal." They laid out offering sangpian, croissants, and halabong sharing the past while embracing the future. Chua Kim's story, now a legend, lived on through its food, its family, and its message that love, like a good recipe, requires courage, creativity, and a willingness to blend the unexpected. As Julian and the sisters watched their children chase fireflies, the island stretched before them, a canvas of possibility. Their lives, woven from two worlds, were a testament to Connect Iona recipe that would inspire for generations to come.